everybody from Livestream. Delighted to be here this week, raising a glass toast at the end, and to our health, hopefully, and another guest where hopefully we maintain it and we enjoy whiskies with friends. As always, I'm thrilled to join you at the end of a week, get to know what's in your glass, have a chat about what's happening in the world of Irish whiskey. We've got some great guests coming up in a few minutes that I'll introduce. But before I do that, let me know where you are, what's in your glass. Whereabouts in the world are you? I'm in San Diego. The sun is shining, but it hasn't stopped me putting on a turtleneck just for your viewing pleasure, because I know that there's all kinds of consternation in the comments if you turn up and there's no turtleneck. So it's here. I don't care about the heat. I'll wear it for you. No problem at all. So what's in my glass? I'm drinking right now, before we get started with our guests, I'm drinking a Redbreast Old Fashioned. Sacrilegious to some, I'm sure, to put Redbreast into a cocktail, but I love me a Redbreast cocktail, and the Old Fashioned is a great one. So tell me whereabouts you are and what you're drinking tonight. Shane is celebrating the fact that the turtleneck is back. Good to see you, Shane, buddy in Ohio. Dublin man all the way up there in Cleveland, Ohio. Jeff in Indiana. Indiana is in the house. Bit of Dead Rabbit Irish whiskey, very good. Nick, great to see you, Nick. You're very welcome. Nick's a great man for the Redbreast. He's got himself some 15-year-old, I think, of late. Wet and Dark, Northern Ireland for John. There's William in Nevada. Redbreast Old Fashioned is epic. It is. I love it. A bit of simple syrup, turbinado, brown sugar, simple syrup, a few drops of what did I use? The regular bitters, Angostura bitters, and Redbreast. Darren is joining us from Rugby in the UK. He's already ordered his bottle of the first cut. 2 stacks, great stuff. So tonight's going to be all about the new release from Ireland Craft Beverages. We're going to be talking to the lads in a few minutes. A full house tonight. The entire team is joining us. We've never had 4 people at one time, I don't think, on the live stream. So we're going to have a good old session tonight. Ed Powers is drinking Redbreast 12 neat in Columbus. Good stuff. Dave is down in Tingle with all the aviators. That's the Aviator Whisky Society, the Dublin Airport Whisky Society, who are all down there taking advantage of Tingle's hospitality. I wish I was there. I'm jealous. Take good care of everybody down there, Dave. I know you will. Wayne is joining us. Wayne Sloan from County Down, representing. Drinking JJ Corrie, the Hanson Old Fashioned. Lovely. Can't beat a drop of the Old Fashioned. Jeff Adams is joining us with some Bua Irish whiskey. Good man, Jeff. Good Ohio connections to that, and some Dead Rabbit. Peter from Wexford. Great to see you, Peter. Martha's Vineyard. We've got people coming from all over. David's up in Los Angeles drinking Green Spot, Chateau Montelena. Lovely, lovely stuff. Let me see. Let me check my notes. What I want to go through before we bring our guests on tonight. So it's great to see, again, so many turning out on a Friday. I know in many areas bars are opening up, in other areas are closing down. Wherever you are, of course, be safe. But just know that every Friday, this is a place that you can come and you can hang out, and you don't even have to leave your house. You don't have to put pants on if you don't want. You can just pour yourself a drop of something Irish and join in the crack here. If you do enjoy the live streams, and I can tell from the frequency with which you do join, I'd love for you to share or like or comment over the course of the evening. If you feel like your friends, your family, relations, your enemies would like to see the Irish Whiskey Lock-In live stream, feel free to share it by clicking share or send or like or put a comment in there or tag a friend. The more people that we can bring to the table on a Friday night, the better, and the bigger the session can become. Over the past few weeks, our audience has grown and grown and grown to the point where now, on an average week, we get about 6,000 to 7,000 people over the course of a week will tune in, both live and for our replays, which is great to see. So I'm thrilled that we're growing. John says that the video quality is not as good as usual for him. Oh, it just got better for him. Okay, great. I think I'm having some internet problems that we've tried to fix, and we'll see what we can do over the course of the night. But let me know if it's unwatchable or you can't hear me, and we'll see what we can do. Darren is drinking John's Lane. Great stuff. And John Keane, good to see you as well. So yeah, so please give us a like, a share, a retweet. Today in Ireland, we saw the kickoff of Belfast Whisky Week, and I know there's many of you who are participating remotely. Belfast Whisky Week kicked off today, goes on for a week, as you'd imagine a whisky week would, and there are amazing tastings, and these amazing boxes have been flying all around the world, arriving at people's doors if you participate. And inside this beautiful box, which says cheers or sláinte, depending on the box you've got. Inside are some amazing goodies. You'll see here, if I can get it open and not knock everything over. Look at that. Look at all those whiskeys. Some amazing whiskeys in there. This is a tasting set that includes things like a John's Lane, Cask Strength. So amazing whiskeys here. So good luck to everybody at Belfast Whisky Week. It's an amazing initiative. Paul O'Kane has done an amazing job with his team of bringing so many brands together, creating amazing packaging like this and sending them around the world. So if you have got yourself a package, I hope you enjoy it this week. That Stram Good is working at the moment. He's drinking a coffee. Well, that'll be a change. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow drinking a bit of whiskey, but enjoy the coffee in the meantime. So yeah, Brendan says Belfast Whisky Week has been unreal so far. So I see online people joining in the tastings. It goes on for a long time, which is amazing. Joe Moore is down in Dingle with a couple of the lads from the Aviators having a great old time. Joe, I'm very appreciative of you checking in all the way down in Dingle. Don't be wasting your time with me. Spend your time there with Dick Max and with all the other great things to do in Dingle. And don't be worrying about me, but great to see you all together. John from Irish Malts is joining us. It's 3:05 a.m. in Dubai. It's beyond whiskey time. It is indeed. It is indeed. Let me see. Jamie up in Northern Ireland, been a long year planning, but we got there. Day one for Belfast Whisky Week, done and dusted. Massive congratulations. Maybe the finest packaging I've ever seen for anything whiskey related. And I happen to sell whiskey related packaging things. And I can tell you that this is beautiful, absolutely stunning. I've never seen anything like it. Congrats to the team. You've done an amazing job. And I hope it's a massive, massive success for you. So that's Belfast Whisky Week. What else do I have to talk about? Oh yes, so I'm going to, in 2 minutes, I'm going to bring in the lads from Ireland Craft Beverages to talk about their amazing new whiskey that they've launched or kicked off with today. Before I do that, about 2 or 3 hours ago, I put a post into our Irish Whiskey Fans of America Facebook group, and I asked for your feedback. And here is let me put up the image that I put up there. This is what I shared. Should we do this? Would love your thoughts. And what I asked was, what if we put together a very special bottling of Irish whiskey exclusively for the Stories and Sips community, the Irish Whiskey Fans of America community? We made it very exclusive, limited release. We could make it available to almost all states in America, available before Christmas, and I asked, should we do it? We'd also make available a miniature version of this exclusive release so that more people can get hold of it. And 140 plus people so far in the group have said yes, they want us to do this. They want a Stories and Sips exclusive bottling of Irish whiskey. If you think that's a good idea, let me know. If it's a terrible idea, also let me know. And I'm in no way trying to compete with any of the fantastic whiskey brands that I bring on here every week, but rather putting together something exclusive and something fun for us as a community, our growing community. But I've got a great response so far. And hopefully it's something that we can pull off in the next few months. But if that's something that you think would be interesting here in the United States, will be a US exclusive, US only, feel free to let me know in the comments. All right, so that is the exclusive. Let me see. Jeff says he's using YouTube on his phone for audio while trying to watch video. Yeah, you mentioned you had bad internet as well, Jeff. As long as everybody else can hear me okay, I just want to make sure everybody being at home for this virus is dragging on the internet massively, I think. Let me see. Seems like other people are having not having as many problems. Seems like it's going okay. But yeah, do let me know in the comments there if you're having trouble. Yours is blurry as well. Mrs. Stories and Sips saying it's blurry. Yeah, we're really, wonder what we can do. It'll kick us out from the consulting with my IT director, Mrs. Stories and Sips, about what to do. Sound is good, image poor. In Dick Max. Let me see. What can we do here to improve this? Nothing else running on the computer. Let me see. Chris wants to know if it'll affect the karaoke. It won't affect the karaoke. Pixelated and hanging for Ed. Yeah, same with you. I'm not sure what we can do, because if I restart the internet now, we're going to get kicked off and we'll lose our show. What we'll do is we'll kill everything else that's running around the house to make sure that nothing's dragging on the internet, and we'll push on. We'll push on. Jason says video is good now. All right. It may just be something that's a little bit haphazard, and we'll plow on. We'll plow on. Just a bit wobbly at times. Okay, video is still a bit choppy. All right, so we'll do what we can. Looks like you can all get it. Dropping down to audio for a bit might let the lag catch up. All right, so Mrs. Stories and Tips has gone to check on the internet. Andrew says he's glad it was the internet because he hasn't started drinking yet. Can you improve the image by drinking more? Chris asks. You can. In fact, I encourage it, and that's definitely going to help. That's definitely going to help. I'm not sure what will happen if we change if we boot our router now. I think we'll kick us all off. That's probably not a great thing. All right, bear with me for one moment before we bring in the lads. Let me check this on my phone. Mr. Stories and Sips just moved the router 6 inches. Yeah. Okay, we're going to keep going, and hopefully it improves. We'll see what we can do. We've been struggling with it here for a few days. All right. Anyway, on we go. So we mentioned Belfast Whisky Week. What is next? All right. So okay now. Sorry, lads. I'm jumping in and out of the comments here just to make sure I can hear everybody. Martin's audio is gone. Julie says Irish whiskey improves everything. It does. It does indeed. If I kill the stream, I can't put it back live again without rescheduling. All right, we're gonna press on. Sorry for those of you who are having trouble. Try it on YouTube or on. We're also on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, try it on Facebook, and hopefully we'll be able to get through it. It seems like most of you are having no problem at all. It's just a few of you are having trouble. Or press on. So I've been making the podcast on the live stream. The explosion of Irish whiskey brands the past few years is something we're really excited. I'm really excited to see a minute bring through Jen who hearts explosion of Irish whiskey with their new whiskey brand. And it's something more of as distilleries as more mature whiskey stock becomes available. It opens the doors for more bottlers and bombs and whiskey brands to come on the scene and put a twist on the thing, or to share the idea of the distillery, to put a unique twist on something that's been done a certain way for years. And as much as there's been a rise in distilleries, we're now up to between 31 and 33, depending on how you count them. There are infinitely more whiskey brands. That's a great thing, because the distilleries will make it and produce it, and more of these brands will come on and this spirit and this whiskey a further reach, which is a great thing. So excited for what's happening. A few weeks ago, we interviewed Liam Brogan, one of the founders of Ireland Craft Beverages, so we could be the journey of following the launch to whiskey. The goal of next year, they launch as they find as they begin different territories. We'll be able to build whiskey brand, along chapter where there are opportunities that they didn't think of. What goes into building a whiskey brand? To me, it's a really interesting story and a really interesting angle, and we're going to hear them on the podcast. But because today they launched their whiskey in Ireland, I thought it was a great opportunity to bring them on about the launch. We've tasted whiskey, which is here for the first time in America. And so we'll also talk about their new innovations. So what I'm going to do, without further ado, is I'm going to bring in my three guests here and add them all in. Gentlemen, you're all very welcome. The team of Ireland Craft Beverages is with us.
How you
How are
doing?
you?
Thanks for having
So
me.
we have Donal's in Sligo, Shane's in London, and Liam is up in Warrenpoint in Northern Ireland, and I'm in San Diego. This is a look at how international Irish whiskey is. Who'd have thought?
There you go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Globetrotters.
I want to start by asking each of you what role you play in the company, so that our audience can understand how a whiskey brand comes about. I'll start with you, Donal. Tell us, first of all, you've got a lovely background there, which we need to know a little bit about. Where are you specifically, and what's your role within Ireland Craft Beverages?
Well, I'm currently situated in Sligo town. Matter of fact, I'm in my family pub, which has been it is now a fourth generation pub. My great grandfather opened it in 1889, so it's been here for quite some time. And my father just handed the keys to my brother 2 years ago, and he's now taken it over. So this is I grew up here. Really, I was making drinks and pulling pints since I was about, before I could even look over the counter, to be honest. So it's fair to say that the drinking and whiskey, beers, it's in my blood, really, and it's part of my life since I can remember. And so my role, really, cut things short, make things easy, is project development, sales, business relationships, and kind of developing brands within ICB, and also kind of obviously support with the guys in terms of creative and marketing. So in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Shane, tell us what your particular role is in Ireland Craft Beverages.
Yeah, so I'm based here in London. We actually have an office here, not too far from where I'm situated, that we would usually work out of, myself and Donal. So I myself would do very similar to what Donal was mentioning there, business development, a lot of the product development as well. Being such a small company and a small team, I think everyone shares a role on everything from administration to the vision. And yeah, it's a pretty small, tight-knit team. Everyone kind of gets stuck into new projects. We've been together for probably 6 years, from starting up, and I know Liam discussed it a bit, from pints over Christmas back in our home village to where we are today. It was to be a platform for Irish beverages, the best whiskies and craft beers from around Ireland, to bring it across the world. And this is where the journey has brought us to now.
Brilliant stuff. And Liam, we've spoken with you at length on the podcast. You're the star of the show, the podcast. Tell us your role specifically within Ireland Craft Beverages.
Yeah, so my background being in accountancy, I kind of take on the financial role, I guess, which kind of means I'm the bookkeeper. I do a lot of the invoicing and keeping the books on the systems and that. But Shane and Donal definitely helped me out a lot with, doing the purchase orders and sales orders and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of try and bring it all together and sort out banking and payments and things like that. But yeah, as Shane said, there we're a small team and we cross roles all the time. We work together to pursue new business opportunities, to seek out importers and distributors, and try and get our portfolio of beverages exported into new countries, and also maintaining relationships with our current partners. And yeah, a little bit of brand development on our own products or white label products that we do for retailers and things like that. So it's kind of a mix of roles, but I guess I have the financial background, so that's kind of one of my fortes as such.
I think you're on mute, Barry, are you?
You're on mute.
Camera change over here. some camera changing over here as we're going to go on mobile in a second to fix this. Donal, tell us, you had a big day today in Ireland. What happened today in Ireland? I know when we chatted before we went live, you've all been very surprised with something that happened today. What was it?
Well, very kind of momentous moment for us and Shane and Liam was we launched, well, it was an unofficial launch, but it was a pre-sale of 2 Stacks Whisky, which went live on Irish Malt and the Celtic Whisky Shop. And from all accounts, it was a pretty successful pre-sale, I would like to guess, like to think. We sold out our initial stock within 4 or 5 hours, which kind of made us do a bit of sweating and trying to get more stock into the respective retailers, which was a surprise, given everything that's going on with the economy and COVID and everything. And so yeah, it was my heart was certainly skipping a few extra beats when things were going in that direction. So yeah, special moment for me and the guys, because it's some tough, a lot of hard work went into this to this day. So yeah, it's crazy.
It's been a long time coming, isn't it, for you all? Liam, when did this idea first come about to launch this whiskey?
Is that for me, Gary? Yeah, I guess we've been thinking about it for nearly 2 years. So we wanted to do something in the whiskey space, and took a lot of time to develop, I guess, the ideas and the brand. A lot of back end work in terms of speaking to the suppliers that we could partner with. So mainly, Great Northern Distillery in Dundalk initially is our whiskey supplier for 2 Stacks, and then a lot of time on branding, coming up with the name. We maybe went through 13 different concepts, with the designers and whatnot, and 2 Stacks came to life out of researching Dundalk as a distilling town and sort of the heritage of it, but we kind of didn't want to go down the route of trying to recreate something of old. We're very much focused on the future, and we wanted a contemporary brand. So 2 Stacks idea was sparked by looking at the old Dundalk distillery having 2 very large chimney stacks, and we kind of like that idea of distilleries of old and new. The old distilleries having their kilns for drying and peating and whatnot, the malt and oats and whatnot. So that's kind of the spark for the name, and then we took it on a further journey down, kind of developing the logo of the brush strokes, and then bringing in this watercolor scheme to distinguish the different the expressions that we're going to do. So we have our core whiskey there at 43%, the first cut. We kind of came up with the first cut being our first whiskey offering, and then the Cask Strength Blender's cut, and then we've got various cask finishes coming as well.
So these 2 samples I got in the post a few weeks ago. I was told, don't show them, don't tell anybody about them, don't take any pictures of them. Wait, and I've waited patiently, and even as late as yesterday, I didn't even share a picture of them. I shared a blurred picture of another innovation, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think they deserve extra praise for not having cracked these open and shared them with the world until today.
You've done well.
Yeah. You'll be included in the next press release.
There you go. So what I want to do before we go into these 2 whiskies, I think I have an audio-visual solution where I'm swapping over to my camera is going to become the phone. So if you bear with me for one moment, gentlemen, because I see in the comments people say the audio is great, but the video is not great.
Okay.
Stick with me. We're going to get this right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see how we do this. I'm going
to. That's a good turtleneck angle.
That's a good shot. Nice whiskey cabinet. How much is that worth? Oh, technology.
Yeah.
We'll blame COVID.
Okay, how's this?
Yep, that's actually perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay, so
you're even better looking.
audience, tell me if you can hear me and see me okay. I'm off the internet. I'm on mobile signal. We're dragging here from the bottom of the barrel for a signal, but we'll struggle on. Hopefully that works. Far better job. Okay, great. The mobile phone saved us. It's going to be weird now because I have to look up and down. As long as I can see your three lovely faces, I don't mind. Jeez, we fixed it. This is unreal. Okay. Thanks, Mrs. Stories and Sips. I put her under tremendous pressure in the background there. I was like, no, come on, hurry up, fix it. She fixed it. Okay. All right. So let me get rid of this. This is Redbreast. That's got nothing to do with tonight because I'm drinking a Redbreast cocktail. But we have more interesting things to talk about tonight. We have here 2 whiskies that you have launched. Who would like to explain what the first one is? The first cut, 2 stacks first cut. Who's up first?
Well,
Yeah.
Don't all rush.
Yeah. So the first cut really was actually kind of the brainchild of it was the first whiskey we wanted to kind of launch into the market, and it was primarily for the United States to begin with, because we had an interest from a distributor and an importer of the United States, and we wanted to go with something that was very palatable, but obviously us and the guys are working on let's say a tight budget of things as well, which kind of it does keep things a bit more flexible in terms of what we're working with, but we didn't want to put a whiskey into the market that was going to be just your generic blended whiskey. So for us, particularly all of us, me, Shane, and Liam, it's very important. Flavor, and character in a whiskey is extremely important. So we know there's countless Irish blends floating around in the market with names that everything from Irish folklore to old Gaelic names that probably have no provenance or actual story behind them. So with 2 stacks, the first cut, we with the blend that we kind of went for, which we proudly show on the back of the bottle, which not many brands, I think JJ Corey and Cologne are the only 2 that really will kind of give this much information in regards to the blend. 40% dark grain, 40% light grain, 8% pot still, your 10% malt and your 2% peated malt. And I'll give you the information of what it's been aged in between our virgin oak casks, our ex-bourbon casks, and our ex-Oloroso sherry casks. And this is another very important aspect of what we want to do. We want transparency and trust to kind of be the leading I suppose ethos in us as a brand. First and foremost, we're not in this for massive profit. We don't want to. We want to obviously build Irish whiskey to be what it used to be in terms of the greatest spirit in the world. And you're not going to do that by making generic, boring, ordinary blends. So the blend we've taken from Great Northern Distillery, if I'm allowed to say that, probably not, but we're not we don't hide anything but what we do. So myself, Liam, and Shane, we sat down and we actually went through a few different blends, and we picked out some characteristics we liked with some, and some we did not like, and we always felt like we wanted a bit of peat in our whiskey as well. So we thought that kind of a bit more edge on a lot of the kind of the blends you'd find in the market currently, because people are a bit put off by peat, I think, particularly in Ireland. I think they don't understand this; their palate isn't used to it. But we want something a bit subtle, so you kind of smell a bit of a sweet toffee on the nose, but you don't really. You get a small bit of that kind of that campfire kind of essence, just kind of hinting in the back, and it's kind of like a sweet smoke. It's very distinct, like it's very subtle, like very, very subtle. So that again was the idea behind that was just bring people more into the fold. That to show, look, you can add peat to your whiskey, but it won't be anything like from Islay or your Lefroy or any of these kind of extreme end of the whiskey scale. And we were so happy with I think this is maybe our third or fourth attempt at the blend, and we kind of hit the nail on the head straight away. And Liam was so confident in it. He's like, we'll get this ordered up. We'll start casking it. I think this is the winner, and we haven't looked back since. So for me, it's on the nose. I mean, I get kind of small bit of lemon peel, a lot of that bit of.
It's the lightest amount of peat I've ever come across in an Irish whiskey that talks about peat.
Yeah, I mean that was the idea. It's kind of, but it's kind of the sweet grain is kind of just lingering in amongst kind of that kind of small, delicate bit of peat. But even on the palate, then it doesn't attack the palate. It kind of just fades in the background. It's kind of lurking, but you can't really distinguish it between the kind of the grassy embers, and it's got a bit of a peppery finish. So, it's for us. It wasn't about making something that was going to stop the world. It was all about enjoyability. And that was simply what was down for this.
Isn't it amazing that even at 2% peated malt, you're still getting the profile of peat coming through very subtly? It's almost like it's burnishing, it's polishing the malt a little bit. It's just scratching the surface.
Yeah, it's almost conducting. It's almost conducting the flavors that's going on around it. So you're still getting that small bit of the sweetness of the sherry, but then your grain, the light grain, is coming through, and then you kind of get that little hint of vanillas from the bourbon cask. So a couple of drops of water then will open it up into a bit more of a floral, kind of a grassy note of a whiskey. I think with the 43%, it probably doesn't need the water in my humble opinion, but people they're happy to add however amounts they like. But so we're very happy with it. In all retrospect, I think I think a lot of it has to do with Liam was very adamant, and Shane particularly was very adamant with the peat, because he loves his peaty whiskeys. So he was like, we gotta stick some peat in it. And to credit Shane, he did a lot with that. So
let me ask Shane about that, because Shane, I'm reading here and I want to make sure people can see this. Hopefully they can. But it's the breakdown of the various malts, the component whiskies in here. So I'll read it out for those who can't see it, because I've never seen a mixture like this before. 40% dark grain, 40% light grain, 8% pot still, 10% double malt, and 2% peated malt. Is there anything left in Ireland that you haven't put into it? It's amazing to get that balance. How did you get that balance of all of those 5 different components, Shane?
But in fairness, I was going back and forth there with Donal, and the whole process of getting to where you want liquid to be. First and foremost, liquid that we enjoy drinking. And Brian Watts down at Great Northern worked very closely with Liam on finalising the complex blend for this liquid. There's probably nothing really out there in the market similar, apart from recently you've probably seen the dark silky came to market, which has got a great reception as well. And for me, I certainly enjoy the peated aspect. But even coming back to what Donal's saying there about the transparency aspect, that's something that we're pushing pretty hard, and it's always been something that Ireland Craft Beverages, I think you mentioned it a little bit on the previous podcast, where we actually launched the downstream about 3 years ago, which was the world's most transparent beer. And it's a similar aspect where why hide anything from the consumer? Why try and pull wool over the consumer's eyes? And giving kudos to the designer and coming up with that graphic. It really worked out. The whole synergy between the visual and the label to the end liquid. We were super happy with where we were able to bring it to. And you can probably see as well, there's Liam now. Actually, he's popped a can of Downstream on his screen. So these new cans of Downstream, we actually, if you turn it around, you'll see we've taken everything off the label. Being in this whole new world of digital, all it says is nothing to see here. Scan the QR code to see all. You simply point your phone camera at it, and it brings you into a full digital world, showing you the provenance of the liquid. So that one in particular was made at Whitewater Brewery, just up the road from where myself and Liam are from. Made from the more mountain waters, and it's something that we want to start bringing into the space in terms of you're limited to the amount that you can put onto a label, but everyone is already ingrained in this digital world. So you might see some more interesting things down the line, but with the labeling of Two Stacks, the visual there has done a fantastic job with simplicity, but also transparency and integrity. And yeah, as I said, we're very happy with that, and it's certainly something at the forefront of what we want to push. Even on the website as well, there's a lot more detail to come, and getting involved in Belfast Whisky Week is a great opportunity. As you were saying, they've done a fantastic job there, and there may have been a similar guy involved in them boxes that was involved in Two Stacks.
Oh, well then, no fear of you. I want to come back to the cans and the transparency a bit. But Liam, I want to ask you, when it comes to what you can and can't put on the labels, you talk about transparency. I know the Irish health services, the system doesn't allow for a whole lot, or is very strict in terms of what they do and don't allow there. Are all of these components, and these are allowed on the label, but is it that you wouldn't be allowed to declare the age of each of these? Is that what the case would be?
Yeah, I think, the HSE is trying to implement the technical file through the Department of Agriculture and sort of the Irish Whisky Association behind that. And I think the problem with being transparent does fall around age statements, and having, say, if you put the year a liquid was distilled in, you can do that, but you have to clearly state in the same line of sight on the label the time it was bottled in, and so the consumer can know that that the age of the whiskey. So there could be whiskey that had been in cask for at the time, and then it had moved to an inert container or that type of thing, where it hadn't aged for the full length of time. So they're particular in that, where if you're saying the year it was distilled, it has to clearly say the year, the date it was bottled, and then the age statement has to comply with that. And when you get into blends, if you've got different components with different ages, the rule of thumb is you're only allowed to disclose the youngest component of the blend. But it's sort of it's tricky, for brands that want to be more transparent, such as like JJ Corrie and Cologne, as Donal mentioned. They're kind of being hampered from doing that, being kind of told that they're not allowed to be this transparent, and it's sort of weird. For us, we want, I guess the basis of our brand is transparency, and we don't have a kind of a gimmicky story behind it, really. It's more about being transparent is the brand. So yeah, it's quite tricky, and we're conscious of it, and as we move forward, we'd like to see maybe some rules change around that. We can, disclose fully everything about the whiskey and everything about the blend components. So it's something we have to be conscious of, but not be afraid maybe to stand up a little bit too against the things that we don't think are correct.
Yeah.
As I've been sipping here on the whiskey, there's a texture to it that's almost like an effervescence. It's almost like if you were to stop short of it being spicy, there's a little, almost like a bubbliness that coats the tongue. I don't know if it's that combination of the peated malt and the malt, but I've never had that kind of a texture before. Almost like an effervescence. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I think that's a lot down to the virgin oak. I think it's played a lot in terms of the finish, where the virgin oak has kind of really come into its own, where you get that powerful kind of like you said, a bubbly, but it's a white pepper, but it's quite lasting. It doesn't fade anytime. And if you think it's like, we were super impressed with this, but then the Cask Strength, which I'm sure we'll move on to shortly. I mean, again, that just takes it to another level. Where it's just an oaky, very oaky, resinous kind of character, which, in all honesty, we didn't expect. But it's an incredibly pleasant surprise because, like Shane said, I don't think there's really anything in the market that kind of comes to this type of character in a whiskey.
No, I've never, I didn't open this before we came on. It's funny, about 30 seconds before go live time, I was here with the knife trying to chop off the top, trying to get the plastic open, scrambling to get the bottle open in time. And so I hadn't even tried it. So first time to my mouth is here live. And it's just this, you're right about that, Donal, about that pepperiness that comes through. And you reckon that's the virgin oak meeting the peat a little bit.
Yeah, well, I definitely think the characteristic of your pot still, your single pot still, is that kind of green pepper, which you get. Obviously that's playing to the fore as well. But it takes, now my palate isn't exactly like a Michelin star chef. I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to tasting whiskey. I know what tastes good and I know what tastes bad. And I'm not throwing this down the sink, but it's I definitely think that the virgin oak is giving it that bounce.
Love it. Yeah, really unusual. Genuinely have never tried that before. I've never come across that flavor kind of profile before. Tell me, you mentioned here on the it's on the label and it's on the handout, 40% dark grain, 40% light grain. What's dark grain and what's light grain? Who'd like to answer that one?
I can answer to that. The dark grain is from the virgin oak cask, so really it's about the color. So being a young whiskey, you've got stuff in here that's probably like 3 years and 10 months up to about 4 years, 6 months. So for young whiskey and being a high grain content, we definitely didn't want to, or never do want to, add any caramel colouring to our whiskey, and we don't want to chill filter. So we keep the whiskey at 43 ABV. I think if we go to 40, you get into that territory where it's recommended to filter and whatnot to avoid chill haze. But really, why we call it dark grain is the virgin oak gives a good bit of colour to the whiskey, and it removes the need to even think about putting caramel colouring in it. And the colour is appealing to the consumer, and it makes the whiskey look kind of richer and whatnot. So as well as the virgin oak bringing lovely flavours to the party, it's doing a great job in adding colour. So it was kind of in conversation with Brian Watts at Great Northern. It was just a term that he used. He says, this is the difference between the virgin and the bourbon oak. The virgin oak makes it dark, and the bourbon oak is light. So we thought that's a great way to describe it. So we're gonna, take that on and use that terminology. But I think it wraps it up nicely. The difference between the virgin oak cask and the ex-bourbon cask.
It's nice that you get to be able to differentiate between them and talk about, like, each of these components has a story. The fact that you're talking about, what's the grain look like, the grain of whiskey look like after it comes out of virgin cask. Oh, it's different than what it looks like when it comes out of ex-bourbon casks. Each of these elements, I think, people find different things to hang on to, and there are different things that become a hook for them. That becomes their thing. Like, any other whiskeys that's got dark grain or that's been aged in virgin casks. So the more we can talk about that, I think, is brilliant, because for years, we've been drinking whiskey, we didn't know what was being done to it or where it came from. So I think we have to salute that. Let me ask so this is bottle of 43%. For those of our audience in the United States who are not familiar with chill filtering and percentages, Liam, you touched on it. It's recommended that whiskeys below 43% are chill filtered to remove certain, dare I say, impurities. After 43%, those don't exist. Is there a better explanation of it than the butchering I've just given that?
Well, it's not really an exact science, I don't think, but even when you go below 46%, it's more about the amount of oils that are in the whiskey. So when you filter the whiskey, you're removing the chill haze type thing. So I guess in the American market, there might be a tendency to drink with ice more than maybe in Ireland, and maybe even to keep your whiskey in the freezer and different things like that. And similar to like a gin that is heavy in oils and has lots of juniper and whatnot, you know, brands are afraid of the liquid becoming hazy when it drops to a low temperature. So you might think of, like, say, Monkey 47 gin has got 47 different botanicals in it, and they use a dark bottle to kind of, you know, they're not showing the white clear liquid of the gin. And similar with whiskey brands, the big guys are all about consistency, and to avoid that ever happening where the consumer might think, well, there must be something wrong with this whiskey. It's gone hazy when chilled. That's where the chilled filtering comes in. But when you do that, you're removing flavor and you're removing some of the nice oils that are carrying the flavor. And that's why we try to avoid it. And, you know, talking to Brian at Great Northern Distillery, you know, his confidence is that, you know, our whiskies are that good. They don't need to be filtered, and they would be happy for you to sell a whiskey at 40% without chilled filtering as well. But I guess the 43 is it's a good balance. Like, you know, people like a little bit of extra ABV to keep the flavor there as well. And no exact science.
Cobwebs away. Yeah,
definitely. So I think that's what the issue is. But caramel coloring for us, it's, you know, we wouldn't like to use anything like that.
I know. Well, it doesn't align. It doesn't line up with the approach to transparency and purity. That you know, that's the flag you're flying. If you're worried about chill filtering at 43% or 46%, then when we bring in this blender's cut, there's no fear of anything surviving at all that's bad in this. An ABV of 65.15%. I'd imagine there are more uses for this than just drinking at that ABV.
It'll start.
Yeah, where do you start with that? Have you, Liam? I think you.
Yeah, I'm gonna crack open my bottle number 3.
Okay. Oh, look at this, bottle number 3.
3 of 2.
Donal, tell us about this one. So this is a cask strength version. Is it exactly the same whiskey? It's just not been diluted to 43%, or is there any difference to this whiskey?
No, it's pretty much the exact same. It's the unadulterated, undiluted, uncut version of the first cut. And you know, being like a whiskey lover, you know, and yourself and Liam, Shane, we all believe strongly, like, you know, the best whiskey comes out of the cask. You should be consumed from the cask, you know, and like, we're not taking anything away from the first cut, but, you know, it's no surprise that most whiskies that people all over in the Irish market, when it comes to even, you know, Redbreast cask strength, you know, some of the single casks you see, even all the old, some of the Bushmill single cask strength releases, these are all go down as, you know, some of the best that will be on the Irish market currently. And for us, it was, you know, we wanted to bring something into the market that really showcased what a true cask strength blended whiskey can do. And again, we have all the information on the back. The back label is the same, but that's 65.15%. We were, you know, to be honest, when we at the start, we were kind of hemming and hawing whether to cut it. You know, we're sitting down and we're like, well, we cut it to, you know, 57 is a good number. What about 59? And then, you know, Liam was like, well, shit that, you know, we'll go with what it is. And I was a bit hesitant, but after tasting it, I was all on board. And you can even get it on the nose, and you kind of get that deep sappy, resinous kind of charred oak kind of coming through on the nose. Like you know you're dealing with something very serious when you nose the glass. You're playing with a bigger whiskey. But what I find incredibly surprising about this, it will not will not attack your mouth. It's on the palate is very oily. It's got this beautiful coating on the tongue, and for me, drinking whiskey, it is all in the nose, but I also like to know what the texture of a whiskey is, and that kind of sets the kind of story on what the whiskey is going to tell you when you drink it. And with this, we put in the tasting notes. It's an oily beast, and this whiskey is an oily beast. It's like licking the sap off a tree. It's that kind of thickness of there's a lot more demand for cask strength whiskies in the market, and I think
there is.
It's massive. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it doesn't. People aren't afraid of it anymore. People used to be, even working in the pub back in the day, and you'd never find many cask strength whiskies on the shelf. And now that's what it's. I think people's appreciation of good whiskey has changed over time. And with that, it's all the kind of the offerings of these cask strengths, and it just kind of we wanted to showcase that blended whiskies aren't to be kind of looked down upon, and with this, we want as a brand of Two Stacks, our mission is to kind of release, like we look up to a lot of the Scottish kind of distilleries. They're like Compass Box, we think are amazing what they do. At Dalfenny, we think I love what they do in terms of their cask releases. But these kind of guys who are releasing cask whiskies, I think that's kind of our inspiration in terms of the Irish whiskey market. And there's no reason why we can't do it. We don't want to cut corners and for more profit making. It's not about profit. It's about the quality of whiskey. It's quality over quantity for us, and that's.
You mentioned there, Joan, like you're in your parents' pub there. You grew up with whiskies on the shelf, and you mentioned none of them being cask strength, really, and that today we're not as afraid of cask strength whiskey. I'm afraid of my life of this. I've never tasted a whiskey. I haven't yet put it to my mouth, but 65%. Like this is like you've brought the best girl in the town to the dance, and I'm afraid to ask her to dance because it's too good for us. It's too good for us. Like, should we even be allowed to try this?
I mean, the whiskey's there to be drank. It's not to be there to be looked.
Give it a shot, but I'm not worthy. It shouldn't be wasted on commoners like me. Something of this percentage value.
Well, I mean, what's important for myself, Shane, Liam, is also is getting critical feedback from people who are drinking it, because if it's something that they don't like, we want us to tell us, because we want to improve what we've done. We want it. If it's not working, we're going to change it. And it's a whiskey for people who want to enjoy whiskey. It's not about building a brand, and ignoring people who are buying. It's about kind of it's an evolution.
Yeah. What do you think, Barry?
Well, lads, I asked her to dance. She can dance. I'll tell you that. She can dance. There's a lovely the peat. There's less peat on the nose to me. It comes through stronger on the finish. It doesn't feel like 65%.
No.
Although now,
definitely.
my stomach, now that it's reached my stomach, I feel like it's starting to. I'm feeling it on the esophagus a little bit. But if I don't make it through this live stream, I've enjoyed having you on, and we've had a good old time, and we had a good run. No, it's. This is a very. I've not had a whiskey like this. I've not had an Irish whiskey like this before. I've not had a very lightly peated cask strength whiskey like this. Extraordinarily different, not overpowering. I don't know that I'd be adding water to this. I'd just be trying to train myself to know how to drink it properly.
Well, a couple of drops of water.
Barry, yeah. Barry, you'd be familiar with Fanon O'Connor.
Say that again. Sorry, Liam, you cut.
You'd be familiar with Fanon O'Connor.
Yes,
the guy.
Fionn O'Connor, yeah.
We love talking to Fionn and getting his feedback. So himself got two of the miniatures as well, and we dropped them down to his house in Dublin. And we said we would love your thoughts and your feedback. And he sent a great couple of notes on it the next day. So I could actually read them out if you'd like, his tasting notes. So he says for the Cask Strength, the nose, sap fresh off the bark and muck fresh off the boot heel. In the muck, there's moss, and in the sap, there's whiskey. And for reasons unknown, the sherry and the pot still get through. With water, all the glorious mud turns to thick maple syrup, sticky bread pudding, and caramel wafer. On the palate, the virgin oak resins, which were subdued on the nose, come out in spray force and cleave through the peat like the diesel oil tractor, of which this also seems to taste. Like the nose, against all laws of physics, both muddy and spray, left alone, it's strange stuff, but water blurs the jigsaw into more approachable caramel. In the finish, the sap comes as bog recedes. Caramel, maize, bog long past us. We can safely remember this is mostly sweet grain. So
It's like
that's something
Poetry right there.
Was that delivered on the stage of the Globe Theatre in London?
a well-oiled
I mean, that's an incredibly loquacious description of a remarkable spirit. It is something very different, and you've experimented here, and I've tried peated whiskies. You might have seen my journey is beginning on peated whiskies. I've had D. O'Connell. Johnny O'Connell has tried to convince me to try to fall in love with Bill Phil. I've had other peated whiskies. I'm not there yet. This one now is like my gateway drug. Maybe it's got me in the door, but I might just stay in the door because it's good, And do I have to go into the room? If I don't know what the room is like in there, I mightn't like it. Maybe I just stay in the doorway,
Well, I mean, it's a whole new world of the peated whiskies. Again, Shane, I think Shane is a bigger fan of the peated stuff, even than me and Liam. I think his
I enjoy, and even coming back to the 65%, I was tasting it back home, and I couldn't see why we would cut this in any way. You're probably familiar as well with anything that comes out of Cologne. It's all integrity bottlings and straight out of the cask. So yeah, for us we thought 65% might be a bit scary, but again, why not? The higher ABV, but I find it very drinkable. Personally, I was sipping it and couldn't see why, and I am curious why, certain distilleries do bring it down. I know sometimes they play about with water to kind of balance it out, but as someone that enjoys whiskey, why not let them, give it to them at 65 and they can add the water. So
obviously this is a blended whiskey, and there are 5 components here that have been blended together. They will have gone into barrels. Will they have gone into barrels at the same ABV? Will they have gone in at different ABVs? When you land at 65.15, what did it start at? Like, is it possible to even know that?
Yeah, probably Great Northern's policy, but maybe it's sort of standard as well. But the grain whiskey usually goes in at 70% ABV, and grain is a lot more aggressive than malt. So the grain is really extracting the flavors from the wood. And a great thing about the cask as well is they're AB1 grade, so they're the best casks that you can get. And Great Northern have a regular supply of full containers of them coming into their yard, and they've got a strict policy of rejecting barrels if they're not good enough. But they've also got a team of coopers that work the barrels. So these bourbon barrels are coming direct from the Kelvin cooperage, and as well as the virgin oak. So we kind of were, in confidence that they're good casks and the distillate is good, and it going into the cask at 70% is really going to attack the wood and bring in the flavors. Whereas the malt, maybe malt being a bit more oily, it goes in around 65% into the cask. So seeing as we've got the higher amount of grain to malt or pot still ratio, it's sort of after the 3.5, 4 year point, it's come down from, you know, a hybrid of sort of 70 against 65, and we've still ended up above 65. So that's generally where it is. 65 for the malt and pot still, and 70 for the grain going into the cask.
So it's not, by the time it ends up in the cask strength bottle, there's very little water being added back in.
Yeah, very little. You know, the coming off the still, it'll be higher than 70, but you know, the casking strength is quite punchy. You know, and that's great. So that's why we've kind of got 65.15 here, and we're not 100% sure, but you know, it could be the highest cask strength on the market at the moment. And it's quite interesting when you look at the pre-1970s whiskies, even stuff from the 50s out of Daly's and Tullamore Dew and stuff. Like there's some whiskies that were cast straight off the still, I suppose, and you're getting them at still like at 70% and stuff. So certainly not the highest cask strength ever in Irish whiskey, but at the current landscape or the modern time, it's right up there as a high ABV offering. So there's kind of the cask strength crusade going on at the moment, and lots of guys searching for it. And so we're happy to bring one to the market that fits the bill, you know. And yes, straight from the cask, no dilution. So
I know. It's a balance, isn't it? Because I can understand whiskey companies need, like any business, to make a profit, to be able to keep the lights on, keep doing what you're doing. And I understand why larger companies will bring their whiskey down to, sadly, the lowest ABV allowed by law, so they can distribute more. But it's the purists, it's those who love the whiskey, want to control that aspect of themselves. I know, like Maureen Linehan here, she's in Canada. Maureen says that, let me see, her point was here. Let the consumer add water if they like. Myself, I prefer a cask strength. And so it gives more choice, doesn't it? So you're not only being transparent with what goes into it, you're saying, and if you want it to be a lower ABV, work away.
But you'll notice, Barry, there's actually more cask strength bottles than 43%. And the reason wasn't actually to bring it down to the market norm. The reason was actually to make as you know, excise duty, etc., to make a price approachable bottling. So the reason for bringing a release out is that it's quite a spicy price point that it retails at for a lot of people. So we wanted to bring a liquid that people could still try that was less than £40, and that was the reason for bringing the 40. Well, that was one of the main reasons for bringing the 43%. But certainly we wanted to talk more about the cask strength.
It's a shame the taxation system, the excise duty that gets put on whiskies and spirits in Ireland. And I know I only have to start this conversation, and you're going to go red in the face. You're so frustrated with it, I'm sure, and others who make whiskey who are on the line as well will be the same. The government has to take such a huge portion of a bottle, and Americans are surprised to know that Irish whiskey is more expensive in Ireland than it is in America for the most part, because of Ireland's heavy taxation. I suppose they're no fools in one sense. They know we're drinking it, so they might as well get their bit out of it. But it's a shame, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's they've tried, even from being from the pub industry myself, they've tried everything to cripple the industry. But I believe they've lowered the VAT to 21% in the last couple of days. But there is such a kind of there's a bit of a nanny state thing going on where they feel like there's too much drinking going on, but too much alcohol is priced too cheaply, so it's kind of a tug of war between what's fair and what's kind of responsible. And I think that's a battle that's going to be fought. It's going to be fought for some time, I think, particularly in Ireland. Unfortunately, I
do think that you mentioned, Liam, the likes of Cask Strength Crusade as a hashtag on Twitter. People are demanding cask strength whiskies. A lot of changes happen at a government level based on consumer efforts and initiatives and pushes. So if you do like cask strength whiskey and you do like a higher ABV and you're living in Ireland, would you ever tell your local elected representative that you want to tax less so you can buy more and have more jobs? And it's as simple as that. In America, I don't know what you're going to do. We have different issues with elected representatives in America, which we won't get into tonight. But the cask strength whiskey, I'll tell you something now. There's a complexity to this that I'm going to have to take some time to think about. Like I can't get my head around all the flavors. Like of the moment, I bet it's one of these things where if I come back to it 5 times, I'll get 5 different sets of flavors starting to poke their way through. Will I?
Are you picking out the Oloroso sherry in the middle there?
I'm not getting the sherry yet. I'm getting a lovely sweetness from there's a sweet peatness, if that's even a phrase, a sweetie peatiness coming through for me. Let me take another drop of it here.
Like kind of like a smoked caramel or something.
Very lightly smoked sugar, molasses, caramel, burnt sugar with a little bit of campfire thrown in, a little bit, like a hint. The nose is less pronounced on the peat than the non-cask strength version for me. But I bet if I come back to it after breakfast tomorrow, after a good bowl of porridge, it'll smell and taste different again.
Yeah, it's like undercooked bread and butter pudding over a turf fire.
Maybe a spoon of water, a teaspoon of water might kind of bring in kind of more of the grassy notes and kind of break up, give you more of a cereal kind of.
I dropped in some water. I did the Ger Buckley Master Cooper and Middleton Distilleries trick, which is you stick your fingers into the water and then you pop them over the glass. It's the most hygienic way, apparently.
I'm a believer
so
in
the
teaspoon method.
Chris Hennessy, our friend in Ireland, says Daniel, David, and Omar are the 3 men leading Cask Strength crusade in Ireland, and doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, Daniel, David, Mara, Omar,
absolutely,
great lads.
That's it, gentlemen. There's a lot of we're obviously our audience predominantly now this time of the night comes from the United States, and we have lots of questions about availability in the United States. There's an innovation I want to get to in a second, but Liam, perhaps you could help us understand the path now from launching at Belfast Whisky Week to getting to the United States, where you're going to start, what help or ideas you need from our American audience. But talk to us about the journey that begins today.
Yeah, so it's fantastic to launch in our home, turf. Belfast Whisky Week, we're members of the Belfast Whisky Club ourselves. We've been going to the tastings for over a year now, and an excellent club, probably the best in Ireland, potentially. And the Belfast Whisky Week is such a fantastic event. So really proud to launch an association with Belfast Whisky Week. But yeah, the path we're heading on is with an American importer who we've met sort of September last year. Myself and Donal were actually in Japan, and we connected with an American company who import Japanese whiskey, and they also specialize in Mexican spirits and whatnot. So they are interested in bringing over an Irish portfolio of spirits, and they see us as an ideal partner, and we see them as our ideal partner. So we've had them over to Dublin, and since then we've started on the journey of bringing this whiskey to market. And there's a master plan that's coming behind that of other spirits we're bringing in from Ireland. But there's 2 stacks is kind of the gateway or the door opener for us to get us into the market. And I guess the importer is called High Road Spirits, and they're a real top team of high level executives from the wine and spirits world who've had very good success in other importing businesses and distributor businesses and so forth. So we're really, really excited and ecstatic that we're actually getting to work with these guys. And we are basically in the background here. We've started to plan our getting into the US market. So we've registered our label with the TTB or the FDA, the Food and Drug Association in the USA, and we've had the label approved for the first cut. And actually, I think from some of the activity in the Cask Strength Crusade in Ireland, it's transferred to America, and we're now decided to go for Cask Strength as well in the American distribution. So we're in the process of ordering our labels and our bottles and our corks and our caps, and Great Northern Distillery being our distillate partner or the supplier of the whiskey, they don't really take much to do with packaging. They probably could, but they're more about making whiskey. So we're partnering separately with the West Cork Distillery to bottle and package the whiskey ready for the US market. And I guess something that Donal touched on is, the blend is being more complex. There's a little bit more cost to the liquid. The packaging is somewhat premium. The bottle, the cork top, the label has foiling and different things. So we're trying to make it accessible and a good price. But I guess the hurdle to overcome then is volume. So we have to do it at a good volume to get it to a certain price. So that's kind of the mechanics in the background. And our importer has taken, I guess, a leap of faith with us as well, that, in order for us to supply this premium packaging and premium liquid, they've committed to bringing in a full 40-foot container to start with. And that's kind of the maximum you can ship. So it's great. And they're based in California, and we've been exchanging information and, starting to talk to distributors throughout the US. And, we've tentatively talked to about 10 distributors in 10 different states, which is amazing. And I guess around February time there, we're about to sort of hit go at that stage and go to market. And we were planning to do the Brooklyn Bar Convention, which is around this time, it's August time. And then obviously the COVID scenario came around, and it was there, but we weren't really, I guess like everybody else, we weren't really taking it serious and seeing what was coming. But March came, and we kind of noticed that, we'll have to see what happens here. We're going to have to take a step back, and things are going to be delayed. And one of the early things we were talking about with the importer is the sort of the innovation we're going to come on to and talk about. But it was the idea that myself, Shane, and Donal had early on, coming from the craft beer world and seeing the craft beer move from bottles to cans. It kind of was sort of natural to us to think, what about putting whiskey in a can? And
let me pause you right there. Let me pause you because
I was a bit, you just dropped
you haven't given it nearly enough of a build up. Like, I'm your hype man here, right? Like, I'm supposed to hype you up here.
Yeah, the pro.
Right. So before we move on to this innovation, because this is something that I'm very interested in too, but I'm also interested in, I'm a big fan of getting the crowd to buy in or to give us feedback and to understand where we might want to see things and what markets people are in. So if you're on the live stream now, or you're watching the replay over the next week, put in the comments if you want to see 2 stacks in your state. Tell us what state you're in, and tell us that you want it, because that's how these guys are going to know and learn and understand where there's demand. Because of course the big states, the coastal states where there's the biggest audience, the biggest perhaps even Irish audience is going to get the most attention. The most dense cities are going to get the most attention. But where are you in the United States that you might want to see 2 stacks turn up in cask strength or in non-cask strength? Or somebody put in the comments earlier, cut or uncut, which is what these 2 seem to be. So we see them rolling in there: Colorado, Ohio. It looks like, let me see, High Road Spirits already supplies Colorado, so that sounds good. We need 2 stacks in Florida, Nevada. So what I want for you guys is that over the next week or 2 weeks, you can come back to these comments. You can see where, and point your distributor there and say, look, here's where we've got people, here's where we've got supporters. And I think that's going to be helpful. So ladies and gentlemen, keep putting in there where you want to see 2 stacks. There's no way that Irish whiskey can succeed. There's no way that smaller companies can succeed without the support of the consumer. And they're going to rely on you to shout from the rooftops to tell your bars, your liquor stores, your estates, your distributors to bring the stuff in. Otherwise, we're all going to be stuck with the same 6 or 7 whiskies for the rest of our lives, and that's an awful way to live when there's hundreds of them out there. We can live better than that. So let's support that. Okay.
100%.
How was that? Did that sound good?
Well, cheers.
Spot on.
All right.
Good man.
Los Estados Unidos de Mexico. All right. Mexico's next, lads. Once you've conquered America, head south of the border down Mexico way.
Always wanted to go.
Okay, so while our trusty and loyal audience continues to fill the comment section with where they want to see the whiskey appear, let's do a little bit of a drum roll, because Liam, when I interviewed you a couple of months ago, probably 6 weeks ago now for the podcast, there was something you refused to tell me. You wouldn't be drawn on an innovation that was coming. It was almost out of your mouth, and then you swallowed it back in. You said, "Nah, I won't tell him. To hell with him. Forget about him. It's not the right time." And then recently, didn't I see appear approval for a label for nothing other than a can of whiskey? And this is the thing you were hiding from us all the time. So fair play to you for keeping it quiet. But over the last few weeks, we have seen the dram in a can turn up. And let me put a big overlay up over here. And Donal, maybe you, because Liam doesn't deserve the stage now after not giving me this information during the podcast. So I'm going to turn it over to Donal. Donal, what on earth have we got here in front of us?
I have no idea. What is that? It's really well, as Liam said, we kind of started off in the beverage industry selling craft beer. We work with a lot of Irish breweries across Ireland, and we noticed the evolution of going from bottle to can, and people were a bit kind of cold at the concept at first, but then it gradually kind of it got better. People kind of were more receptive, and then there was a lot of kind of, I suppose, arguments in favor of why it was in a can. Particularly like there's no sunlight pollution. It's easier to pack, it's easier to ship, it's easier to keep chilled, blah blah blah. Easier to store. Everything from logistics to selling to stocking to, and really it almost came by as not as an accident, but I remember we were working with the design team, and they were kind of putting forward kind of ideas, and they mistakenly had put our label, our brush strokes on like a kind of what looked like a can, and I think a light bulb clicked to one of us, and we were like, why don't we just put whiskey in a can? And we kind of laughed it off, and then the idea just kind of slowly, the seed was planted, and the idea just kind of slowly built, and it grew into this kind of vision of well, why can't we put whiskey in a can? There's nothing really against. There's been done high-end cocktails, high ABV cocktails. There's RTDs. There's everything, you name it. But we've never really seen anything that was done the scale of that, where we put a straight whiskey, a 43% Irish whiskey in a can. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything, but when you look, I remember when I used to go to maybe a few house parties and always bring maybe a nag and a whiskey, like something small I put in my pocket. When I was thinking, well, something that's compact and easy to carry, easy to kind of share amongst friends, and that's going to be affordable and also environmental. And I think what kind of happened was that with COVID, another thing kind of dawned on people was being more hygienic. And I think using a single kind of packaging for personal consumption is what a lot of bars now might look at, instead of sharing bottles, this, that, and the other. So that's just another element that kind of has kind of accidentally come in on the fold. And yeah, we pitched it to High Road, and they were falling over themselves with the idea. And then Shane came up with the dram in a can, which Oh, fair enough. Pretty catchy.
Shane, you'll be kept, Shane, if you're not careful with contributions like that.
I know, absolutely. But no, yeah, I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head there, and we're curious to see the feedback. People perceive can aesthetically sometimes as not premium. Even in the craft beer world, everything in especially here around London and even more so in Ireland is gone into can because as a container they become a lot more accessible. People would be worried that the liquid might be influenced. Not at all. And the liquid that you're drinking there now, Barry, this is 100 ml can, so it's a double shot, or almost just less than a 4 ounce for the US market. But it certainly wasn't easy. It took between the three of us 9 months more to actually. It's a pretty complex supply chain putting it together, and we did want to keep it on the wraps, as Liam was trying to do. But these guys on Twitter, and if you put anything into the TTB, they sniff it out. And yeah,
I know.
Once we registered it, we had to let the cat out of the bag. But it's no, it's fair in terms of what we want to achieve with it is making it more accessible. It's going to be in 4-packs as well as singlers.
Wow.
So we want people going hiking, people that just want to try Irish whiskey, and this is the 2 Stacks blend, complex blend, quality whiskey. But down the line, who knows? You may be able to get really super premium whiskey in the similar format. Something that you don't want to pay a lot of money for, you can get in a 100 ml format, and you can actually give it a go. So taking on a little bit, I think it's there. It's wide open miniature market. It hasn't been disrupted for decades.
So these bottles that I have here, are these 100 milliliters?
They're 200.
200. Yeah, so it's half the size
200.
of that. Yeah, half the size of that.
Half this. Okay. So the questions that came in the most during the week when I posted Irish whiskey in a can, people thought, well, there's going to be a mixer with that. It's going to be a cocktail. Of course, it's not. This is straight whiskey in a can. And for some reason, a lot of people are wondering about the flavor changing in a can. Well, is it any different than it being a bottle?
Liam, you can cover that one.
I think what Donal said is correct. Like, a glass bottle, especially a clear bottle, is influenced by sunlight, which isn't really a friend of a liquid or a beer or a spirit as well. Although a spirit can really hold its own inside a container, being a high strength alcohol. But over time, you do have bottles that drop in fill level and whatnot, and it's through evaporation. The other thing about a bottle is you leave about 3.5 to 4% of a gap between the bottom of the cork and the liquid, and essentially that can contain oxygen. It's going to oxygenate the beer or the spirit within that vessel. So with this packaging, what we've experienced in the craft beer industry is, there's less oxygen. There's less dissolved oxygen as well in that type of vessel. And when you think of back, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, tins of beer like Harp or Tennant's and whatnot, the kind of the aluminium was maybe exposed in the can, and maybe there was a taste of metal associated with it. But modern day packaging technology has come a long way, and most of these cans now are coated on the inside, and it's it's non-reactive. The liquid actually isn't touching the raw metal or anything like that. And one of the things about this can, which was tricky, it was all to do about the size, and we were looking, naturally towards aluminium cans, thinking, that's standard. Like, let's see if there's any aluminium can companies. So we go out to the top 3 big guys, and they're big American companies too, but they're global, and none of them produce a can at this size of 100 ml. The lowest size you can get is 150. And we kind of looked at it and tried the idea of like 150 ml of straight whiskey. It's too big, it's, even though it's a small dinky can, and people would be used to seeing like small Coca-Colas and whatnot in these type of cans. Now it's just too much, you know. There's a responsibility factor to it where you don't want to, you know, have too much of a high ABV spirit. So we were adamant that it had to be 100 mLs, and that led us to look further afield and search out what is the solution here. And basically, this can is made from tin plate, which it's actually even less reactive than aluminium. It's a safer bet for us, or it's a safer option for us to package this spirit in it. And yeah, the tin plate, it's also coated on the inside, and we've ended up with a manufacturer who has credentials in terms of, you know, that they are approved by the FDA, and there's been trials and whatnot in history, and there is similar product that has been in this, namely not straight whiskey or straight spirit, but high ABV cocktails. So it's a little tried and tested, and there's some brands in the market in the US about 4 years now, and there's absolutely no complaints or no effect on the liquid from the material of the can. You know, we just kind of have this feeling that, you know, there's no sunlight penetrating it. There's very little oxygen inside the container. It's probably a better solution really than a bottle. But, you know, because it's a single serve, it has to be a small item. And within the US market, there's certain sizes that can be used. There's 50 mil, 100 mil, 200 mil, 355, 750 liter. And a 50 mil can is just too small. You know, that would be a single dram. And we think the 100 mil is just perfect. You know, it's a double dram, or it's maybe in the UK market, or well, in the Irish market, it's 3 drams really. But it's just great. It's a nice. Yes. You can share it with your friends. It's accessible, and the 4-pack is quite tricky as well, because 400 ml isn't a registered or, you know, a legal selling size of a package, but because it's 4 times 100 mLs, and the way in which we're packaging our 4-pack, we're kind of getting around that type of thing, where this is going to be a nice way to package it. You know, 400 ml, it's not as big as a bottle, and I think what we're trying to do is make it really accessible. So the can, we're trying to make it $3.99 in the US market, and the 4-pack being $15.99. So if you look at that in terms of a 75 CL, you know, it's about $28 of whiskey compared to a bottle. Yeah. So that's really competitive price, and we have to operate at scale. And, you know, we probably won't make any money for a long time, but if it grows and if it's a success in terms of people like it and we get into various states, then it could become good for us. But it's almost, you know, like an experiment that we have to put a lot on the line. We have to take a lot of risk ourselves to see it through, and hopefully it does. But it's all up to the audience.
But a lot of the first movers always take the biggest risks and spend the most money and open up the pathways for others to follow. Are you worried at all that no sooner do you launch this successfully that some large brands follow you down the road with their canned equivalents? Can you trademark? Can you protect what you're doing in any way?
We do have, well, we've had, I suppose we've tried to be watertight with our attorney in the US, and we have kind of tied all that up. So there is legalities around what we're doing that should allow us to, you know, just completely agree with you there, Barry, that that's the reason that we didn't really want to put it out. This won't come to the US until probably November time. So, you know, it's going into production, and with logistics and the supply chain, to be honest, I would be surprised if a big brand could turn it around in less than 12 months. It's pretty difficult. But again, you know, we're just more excited about bringing another product package. There's also going to be 750 mil, you know, the same way we've always done everything with the innovation. We've pushed ahead and not really thought about other competition. Yes, if they want a copycat, that's fine. You know, I just think it's certainly disruptive, and hopefully it allows more people to come into Irish whiskey. And whether you're going hiking, whether you're going to a party and want to share a new blend with friends, or maybe a nice single malt. You know, as Liam explained, the pricing's, you know, almost ludicrous in terms of picking up at $4, that kind of complex blend. So for us, it's very minimal, and where we want to take it to market, but we just feel that it's there. There is a market for it, and hopefully it's well received.
I love it. I love the innovation. I love that you're taking a chance. I love that you looked at the system and said, how do we find our way around that? Like packaging sizes, and can sell 400 mils, or can we? And figuring out how to put bits together.
Yes, we
can. Let me ask you this. The packaging, when it comes to actually sealing the can, is there a gas that's pumped in to the can to seal it? Is there a bit of a crack, a kind of a pop like you'd get with? I mean, there's no carbon dioxide, presumably, but or how does that work?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the seal of the can is really important to keep out, I guess, oxygen and whatnot. But the way we purchase the can is we actually have the lid, which your opening is sealed at the manufacturing plant, and the cans are filled upside down using the counter pressure filling. So the nozzle that the liquid's coming out of is pretty much in the can, and the liquid comes right up to the end of the filler, and there's a CO2 purge, and then the bottom seal is put on, within like a second. So there's a purge from a CO2 dose, and that you're talking the amount of oxygen that's in the can. It's parts per million, and that's all analyzed, and there's laboratory tests and whatnot to back that up. And we'll obviously keep stock, for testing, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 2 years. And what we're looking for to measure the level of any oxygen and whatnot in the can, and there's sensory analysis and tasting that goes on. And ideally, if you really want to test it, you would can it and then wait 2-3 years and see does anything happen. But commercially, that's impossible. So we have to put it in the market, but we're trying to be particular, and the people who are canning it for us, they have expertise in this here, and we're quite happy with the systems and the procedures and everything that's in place, that it's going to be successful. And you can easily say that, compared to a bottle, there's definitely a lot less gases in there that would affect the flavor.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Pretty win-win.
I'm looking forward to seeing it on the shelf next to a can of Coke with a child-proof warning, of course. But I think it's there's so many uses you could find for a can of whiskey. And look, as I've always said, I'd drink whiskey out of a boot if you gave it to me. So the number of vessels that can only increase the consumption of alcohol. Irish whiskey in a moderated way, of course, in a safe and enjoyable way for all concerned. So we don't know yet when we're going to hit American shores. You're working on it. The states haven't yet been fully declared as to where you're going to be. Like, you're still in that stage of kind of exploration, aren't you?
Well, I think, Liam, you can probably give an update. We probably have more of an idea of a time frame on states that we will certainly be in.
Yeah, well, I think we've kind of pressed the button here, and we're in production, and there's about 120-day lead time to bring everything together. So we're hoping to have the finished product in America for October. It'll take to November to get into the distributors, and then hopefully the retailers can get it before Christmas this year. So that's the goal. And we're maybe a few weeks behind schedule because, like any industry, the buying for Christmas is done in July, or probably before that. Maybe most of it's done in February, March. But it's a weird year, and everything's upset, and the supply chains are upset, and so we're hoping to get some action for Christmas time, and people can start enjoying it. So as I say, with 10 states lined up, which off the top of my head, it's California, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Massachusetts, Florida, Texas, and Atlanta. Yeah. So off the top of my head, that's the sort of ones we've discussed. But the feedback's been great from distributors so far, and they can't wait to get their hands on it. And it seems, because it's a new innovation, it's going to be a highly marketable product as well, we think. And if we can get things right, and work with our importer and work with our distributor partners, we'll try and get it out there, not overly fast, but into a few states for Christmas, then by St. Patrick's Day next year, possibly those 10 states, and we'll see how it goes from there. And definitely, if we get direct feedback from consumers through Irish whiskey fans in America, and through those platforms, we'll be saying, look, there's a demand in this market, and let's try and get it there. And it's just a matter of identifying the right distributor, and there's a process that lasts months, or of vetting and back and forth and getting relationships. But because we have such a strong importer, they already have such solid relationships that's quite accelerated as well.
It's great that you can hit the ground running with a number of states because the distributor are ready to go. It's a crazy country to be navigating, as you well know, and having people who are already doing that for you and doing the hard work on your behalf is going to help you, no doubt about it. And I'll say this again to those of you who are putting in the comments that you didn't hear your state being mentioned. The only way anybody will know that your state wants it is if you tell both your state and the distributor, and you tag Liam or Shane or Donal in comments on the group, or they're all part of. So that, look, this the beauty of things like when we can all come together like this is that it kind of democratizes the process a bit, where there's not a million layers between the consumer and the brand. Like, here, lads, ladies, you can ask questions directly, and you can suggest, and you can ask, and you can request that this whiskey ends up in your state. So look, that's all I'd say is request it, and do your canvassing, and you'll be lucky. All a distributor wants to hear is that somebody's going to buy the thing that they put money behind to put into a state. And if there's crickets and tumbleweed when they roll into a state, they won't go back in a hurry. So be clearing out your tumbleweed and get rid of those crickets, and start shouting for 2 stacks if you want in your state. Colorado being mentioned a lot. And have I mentioned Colorado? Yeah, so I think Colorado there is being mentioned. Cask Strength Crusade in a Can is the next one, lads, as if you weren't busy enough.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it has come to mind. So we'll see. I'd love to, we haven't really talked too much more about, stuff that is aging that will be coming out soon. In Cask Strength at Cologne, it'll be part of Belfast Whisky Week, but yeah, maybe down the line it'd be fantastic to bring out more differential liquids that isn't the 43%. But yeah, let's see, maybe some Cask Strength.
I know there's lots more you're doing. Like, I know there's things with Cologne, there's finishes that you're doing. Liam, you hinted at some of the amazing things you're doing. I want to save some of these nuggets for the next podcast, because on the next podcast, let's get the 3 of you on, and we'll talk about what you've learned. And I said this, so Donal and Shane, I said this to Liam when he was on with me, keep little notes about this journey. You're on a journey that you'll remember the rest of your life, bits of it. You won't remember all the details. I want the details on the podcast. I want to know what really, like, that sucked. Like, that was just the worst thing that just happened to us. Like, how come, what failed? And then what was really successful, because this is a human story of you guys trying to grow a business, humans who are interested in what you're doing and who are buying your product. I want to hear those things when we next do our podcast. Probably in a month or 2, we'll come back to you, and we want to hear what happened between the launch at Belfast Whisky Week and then how close are we to America.
Definitely, yeah. Look forward to it. Hopefully, we've kind of matured a little bit more, and we've learned, from some previous mistakes too. So we can only, and obviously we're always looking for feedback from likes yourself, Barry, and a lot of all your subscribers and listeners. We want feedback from them, so it's very important from us what they think of our product.
Absolutely, and big shout.
No shortage of opinions you'll have no shortage of opinions in the Facebook group. I can tell you that. And what would be amazing is when you get to America, that we're able to do a tasting with the group, and we for those who can buy the product in the states that they're in, we get them all online. You all come back and we'll do a tasting together. and they'll determine if this whiskey meets their expectations as it has mine. It's surpassed my expectations. I don't know if you've noticed, I've been pouring more and more of the Cask Strength into my glass. I've never gone back for more peated whiskey in my life. I've done it tonight. That's a big bottle there, Liam. Jeez, we'll have to get one of those over here.
Yeah, it was
it's serious stuff. I have to tell you, like it's serious stuff. Sorry, Donal, go ahead.
Grows, yeah, it does grow, yeah, but no, it's obviously a man or two who's been tasting whiskey throughout Ireland. It's a good start. It's a good start to the brand to know that you're a fan. So we're very pleased anyway so far.
Yeah, great kudos, and
don't
even
be building a brand. Don't be building a brand on the back of my palate, because I have a very junior palate compared to some of the people here. But I'll tell you this: like I've not gone back to a peated whiskey before, sadly, and I've said it to poor old Dahi O'Connell. His whiskey is sitting on my shelf back there because I can't go for a full peated whiskey. But there's a lovely balance here that I'm very impressed with. So my seal of approval for whatever that's worth or not worth. I'm enjoying it.
Ah, brilliant
stuff. Absolutely,
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, you've stayed up past your bedtime, past everybody's bedtime. You've had a long day. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for being honest and open for the transparency. For those of you who are watching, would you ever type in an old sláinte or a thank you or a cheers to the lads, wishing them well on this whiskey journey? They're only getting started, and there's a lot more to come. I'm excited. They're taking chances and taking risks and putting their money where their mouth is already, and that's a good thing. And we wish you well on the journey. And we're looking forward to catching you again soon, probably in a month or two on the podcast. But until then, gentlemen, thanks for bearing with us on the old sound issues at the start. I think we got them sorted. Lots of great slaunches and cheers appearing in the comments. Come back and check them out tomorrow, and it'll warm you up. And when there's days when you feel like it's not worth it, it's too hard, we can't go on, you'll follow Samuel Beckett's words and you'll say, we must go on.
Yeah, and Barry, just a big shout out to yourself and the Irish whiskey community and supporting the launch. It's went fantastic, so thanks very much for
really,
I appreciate it. Thanks very much, guys, and everyone joining.
Cheers, lads.
One last thing,
thanks a million for coming on, lads.
One last thing for myself is we're doing the official launch next Saturday at 8 p.m. Irish time from the Friend at Hand Whisky Museum in Belfast, and we've done about 40 sets for the tasting, and we're tasting some new stuff. But anybody can come in and watch the stream. So have a look on our Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We'll post out how people can join that stream if they want. And we're going to have a bit of music, and we're going to have a bit of crack and taste a few whiskeys. So everybody's welcome, and chat us again next Saturday night. So,
so follow Two Stacks Whiskey there on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and keep up to date and sneak into the room, even if you haven't bought a pack for Belfast Whiskey Week. There'll be no judgment.
Welcome.
More than welcome.
As long as you have whiskey.
Well, the best luck of the launch, lads. Fair play, G.
Thanks
really
very
appreciate you coming on. Looking
Thanks
forward
very
to the journey. Thanks for the whiskey. Sláinte, lads.
Sláinte. Thank you.
From Ireland Craft Beverages, brilliant stuff altogether. Loving the crack and the innovation, and there's something in the water in Ireland, I think, that makes us punch a little bit higher maybe than the size of our country, or maybe we're not phased in the face of massive companies or conglomerates that we're maybe coming up against. And it's remarkable to watch smaller upstarts chancing their arm in the best of ways, knowing that they've got something quality in their bottle or their can. And I'm enjoying the journey that we've been privileged enough to follow so far. And there's a lot more to come. And so we'll keep checking in with them. So follow along on the Stories and Sips podcast. You're going to get more details there. Ed, you had put in a question. You might have missed it being answered at the start. What does two stacks mean? Two stacks refers to two large chimneys up in Dundalk in County Louth as part of an old distillery that was there many years ago. And this is paying homage to the two stacks that would tower over the landscape there up in the northeast of Ireland, and so Two Stacks pays homage to that. And you see the little brush strokes on the bottle, showing the kind of those stacks there in a nice kind of contemporary way. Chris says support the upstarts, and Johnny says whiskey and good crack makes the world go round. It's funny, like as we started the stream tonight, trying to get the sound and the sound working. It's Mrs. Stories and Sips that got it all figured out for us. If it wasn't for her, we'd be dead in the water here. The engines would be cut and we'd be dead in the water. But while the lads were on, there was even more sound and video issues that we were scrambling behind the scenes to fix. But look, that's all part of doing it live. It's all part of the journey. So that was brilliant. Looking forward to seeing what's coming next from them. I've got a podcast episode that launches in the coming week with Bushmills in Northern Ireland. We had a great interview. I had a great interview with Jack Ferris, the national brand ambassador in the United States for Bushmills. Some of you may have noticed that there is word of a new, very old Bushmills about to hit the market in the United States, a 28-year-old Bushmills. The oldest Bushmills that's in the market right now is 21 years of age. We haven't seen anything older than that ever come out with the name Bushmills on it. And there is a 28-year-old on the way. I interviewed Jack Ferris, the national US brand ambassador, about many things Bushmills. I'm fascinated by Bushmills because I've never actually been there. And so I wanted to learn more about the distillery, the history, the journey, what makes them unique. Bushmills has played a unique role in the evolution of Irish whiskey over the years, and together with Middleton, these are the only two distilleries that have weathered the storm from the 1800s and on. I mean, Bushmills controversially states its origin back to 1608, Middleton 1825, but certainly in the 1800s, 1900s, and up to present day, these are the two distilleries that have really plowed a furrow that allowed other distilleries and other brands to come in and kind of stand on their shoulders. So it's remarkable, a remarkable story. We're going to see more. We're going to see more from Bushmills, to my understanding. But you'll have to listen to the podcast this week to get all those details, because as far as I know, they're not stopping at a 28-year-old. There's some really interesting things coming from Bushmills. Watch this space. I was never. My early days of Irish whiskey, I wasn't a fan of single malts, and Bushmills, of course, is the flag waver, the flag bearer for single malts, has been for hundreds of years. Yes, they have blended whiskies, but their base is malt, single malt. They have remarkable single malts of significant age in their warehouses, and they're only now going to start seeing the light of day. So really excited to see what's coming there. Chris says, Mrs. Stories and Sips saving the day. Yeah, every day she saves the day, believe me. Mrs. Stories and Sips is a lifeguard and a lifesaver. Peter says, Bushmills 28, now we're talking. Indeed we are. Indeed we are. So if you've lasted this long on the live stream, if you have survived the audio and video challenges, if you've been saved because of Mrs. Stories and Sips figuring out audio issues and cables and us rotating through every charger in the house, fair play to you for sticking around. Okay, Peter asks, can I, let me see, Bushmills 28 for Mrs. Stories and Sips, you owe it to her. Yes, if we manage to get one of the 800 bottles that'll be released globally, yes, she will of course partake. Peter asks, can I talk more about the possibility of releasing a Stories and Sips bottle? Yes, so I think this was marred early on in the evening by some audio challenges. I posted in the Irish Whiskey Fans of America Facebook group, which if you're not a member of, let me put this up on the screen, you are all dead to me. You should be a member of our group, Irish Whiskey Fans of America on Facebook. 5,300 devoted, loyal Irish whiskey fans are in there. Irish whiskey enthusiasts and lovers of the juice that comes out of Ireland, the brown water that we're so proud of. A remarkable group, not because it's mine, but because it is kind, it is contributory, it is helpful, and yeah, it's kind. What more can I say? There's no spam, there's no memes, there's no crudeness. It's monitored many hours of the day, trust me. Nothing gets past me in there. But I posted in the group a question. Should we do this was my question. And the question revolved around, should we release an exclusive Irish whiskey just for the Irish Whisky Fans of America group and the Stories and Sips community that has been building over the last few months and comes together on a Friday night for a lock-in live stream, listens to the podcast, engages in the group. Should we figure out a way to do a Stories and Sips bottling that will be exclusive? And in doing so, could we make it available to as many states as possible? Could we also make a miniature version so that if you couldn't manage the outlay for a full bottle, you could maybe manage the outlay for a small bottle, making it more available? If we could do all that, and we could do it before Christmas so that you'd have it in your Christmas stocking or under the tree, would that be something that's of interest? And resoundingly, people said yes. 140 people at last count said, let's do it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to hear it here first. It's going to happen. The bottle is happening. We're doing it. We pulled the trigger on it this afternoon. All will be revealed in the next few weeks. I'm unbelievably excited about what we're going to do. This is in no way going to be a profit-making enterprise for me. If the whiskey maker makes a profit and the distributor and the retailer makes a profit, fantastic. I'm not going to take anything from this. Rather, what we're going to do is we're going to make it as accessible as is humanly possible, acknowledging that small run whiskies, exclusive whiskies, we're talking 200-300 bottles max. The cost of getting 200-300 bottles to the States, available to all states. In any case, whatever the basic costs are, that's what you'll pay. There'll be no markup. We're going to get it done. I don't know yet what it's going to be, because I'm going to work with this whiskey maker, whiskey company, and we're going to figure out what the makeup, what the expression, what the style is going to be. But here's the interesting bit. You're going to choose. So you're going to come along for this journey. Everything from the label to the style of whiskey. You're going to be involved every step of the way. So my goal is, from now on till Christmas, let's launch a whiskey. Let's launch a whiskey together. And let's figure out what that takes. The whiskey company, the whiskey brand in Ireland, is going to document the process on video and in photographs, and we're going to share those in the group. And that means that you're going to be able to follow along and ask questions, and we're going to bring the whiskey brand on throughout the journey to talk to them about this. And then there's going to come a day in November or December when it comes available, and we'll buy it, and I'll buy it just like you'll buy it, and we'll do a tasting live. We'll bring the whiskey brand in and we'll do a live tasting together, and we'll have a lot of fun, and it'll be an amazing culmination of a year that is challenging for so many. If we could, at the end of this year, have a bottle with our names on it, Irish Whisky Fans of America or Stories and Sips on it. In any case, we'll figure that out. We'll name it something. We'll work that out. But isn't that exciting? I'm very excited by that. Brings a tear to my eye. We've come a long way as a community. 8 short months ago, we had about 200 people kicking around our Facebook group. Now we've got 5,300. So it's an exciting time, and we signed off on it today. It's going to be done. I don't have any more details. I don't know what style it is. I don't know, but you're putting some great ideas into the comments. Can it come in a turtleneck sleeve? That would seem to be the best idea for how we should ship it and transport it. We're going to try and make it available in as many states as possible. Steve says Zoom meeting. Yeah, we'll do a private tasting for those who manage to get their hands on it. I'm going to find a way to get as many miniatures into the market as possible. So here's how the 3-tier system works in the United States. Many of you will be familiar with it. The manufacturer cannot sell directly to a consumer. The distillery, the whiskey brand can sell to a consumer. Rather, they work with so you've got tier 1 is the producer, tier 2 is the distributor, and then tier 3 is the retailer. So we'll have to work with all of those, right? So we're working with the whiskey producer, which we've already signed the deal with. Next is the importer / distributor, which we're going to work with, and then the retailer. So you'll buy from the retailer, and we're going to find a retailer, online retailer, that'll ship to as many states as possible. I have no say over which states can or can't get it. What I do have a say over is the retailer that can get to as many states as possible. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get to as many states as possible. My understanding is that we can get to 40 states. That's my understanding. TBD. Stick with me on this, and we'll figure it all out together. We'll try and do some combination things. Look, it's coming close to Christmas. It's a chance for gifts. Maybe we can do some sip boxes with the whiskey. I don't know. The sky's the limit, really. The good news is that you're interested, and so we'll take a chance on it. We've pulled the lever on that, and so we're off to the races. And I don't know what it's going to take because I've never done it before, and it's probably going to cost a bit of money. But sure, look, we'll do it, and we'll have a bit of fun with it. And we can always say that we came up with a whiskey together, and we'll get something into the market. So that's for sure. So we can we do priority for stories and sips at retailers? Yeah. So look, we've a number of things I'm working on at the moment over the next few weeks. Like, for example, Waterford Whisky is coming to America before the end of the year. The distributor is going to give us first access as a group. So the Irish Whiskey Fans of America, we're going to get a code. It might be 48 hours before anybody else gets it. But we're going to be able to get first refusal of the Waterford whiskey bottles that come into America. So look, the more we can do as a group to invite our friends to join this group, if this group gets to 10,000, 15,000, guess what happens? We get enormous buying power, and we get enormous leverage with the whiskey community to do really cool things. And I'm going to work hard to make that happen. And so I'm going to run a few contests over the next few weeks to bring more people into the group. I'll ask for your help. I'll ask for you to share, to click like, to invite people to the live stream, and invite your friends. And we'll do some fun things to bring more people to the table, so that ultimately we get access to whiskeys earlier. We get access to the distillers, the brands. We get access to our own whiskeys. It's like a little whiskey commune that we're building here. All we got to do now is buy some land, move in together, and farm the land. We'll have our own whiskey, our own vegetables, and sure, look, we can shut the rest of the world out because we'll be happy. Maybe a bit of Wi-Fi for a Friday night, and we'll be grand. So yeah, so that's what's happening in the world of stories and sips bottlings. Exciting times with I don't know which camera to look at with all these. I've got my phone up here. If only you could see the setup here. It'd be, I don't know how I could show it to you. But my camera, my phone is up there on a tripod. My computer's down here. This is no NBC setup, let me assure you. It's a hodgepodge of cables and boxes. But sure, look, we get the job done. So look, a big thanks to Jeff, or to Liam and to Donal. I see Jeff there is being answered. His questions being answered in the comments. To Liam and Donal and Shane from Ireland Craft Beverages. I think there's some really interesting things that are going to come out from them, in addition to the 2 stacks and the cans. And I love a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of arm chancing. It's what the world needs. So we're going to get more whiskey in our hands, be it in cans or bottles. And that's it. I don't know what else to add. Let me know if you've got any questions that you want to add. It's Friday night. For many of you, you're maybe finding restaurants or bars that have opened up in your state. And for those of you, I say just enjoy, be careful, stay safe. I know many of you in other states are experiencing more shutdowns, and I expect we'll see more of those. Ireland is in opening mode, which is great, and long may it continue, and hopefully it can do so safely, so that at some point in the future, we're all going to get on a flight and find our way to Ireland. In the spirit of big thinking, I was driving along today, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if we could charter a flight? Like, what would it take to charter a flight in the future of just all of us, from the Irish Whiskey Fans of America community, from the Stories and Sips community? We get in a plane in New York or Boston or DC or somewhere, and we ship out one flight, only us, off to Ireland for a tour of the distilleries. Look, our own whiskey today, our own flight tomorrow. You never know. We got to think big. We'll make it happen. Well, look, I don't think there's any more to be covered tonight. I'm still sipping on my Cask Strength whiskey here, unless any of you have other requests or things to add. It's been a while since I've had a Cask Strength whiskey. There's one Cask Strength whiskey that's on my list that I've never tried, believe it or not, and that's Black Barrel Cask Strength, straight from the Middleton distillery. That's normally bottled around 59 or 60%, 61%, but I've never tried it. But in the meantime, I've got the 65%, which is incredible. Jeff says you'll need more than one plane to get across there. Be one wild ride. Can you imagine it? singing the Out Triangle across the Atlantic for 6 hours, and then arriving into Shannon or Dublin, wrecked, tired, our eyes hanging out of our heads, jumping on a bus, going down to JJ Corrie to visit her, then on to Clonakilty and Dingle and Middleton. I mean, we'd have some crack. It could be done, though. It could be done. Peter says, thanks again for another great night. Thank you, Peter, for joining. Really sorry for the internet issues at the start. My big investment over the next week is in a webcam that gives even better quality, and an investment of my time to get my internet fixed so that we've got better, faster internet. Patrick calls at 57%. Is that the Black Barrel? Is it in Middleton? I'm seeing it at 59, 60. Or is that what you bottle in Clonakilty? Have you got some bottle of your own at Clonakilty as well? Perhaps. Let me see. Ed says it's time to sing. Johnny says time to sing. We normally play out the night with a song, like, and I suppose, and when I say normally, I mean the last two or three weeks. Dearman says we stop into Tipperary for the fry-up. Oh, just wouldn't it be lovely? We'd have some old trip. It'll be done. Honestly, it's what keeps me going, thinking about pulling that together, like pulling a trip together where 100 of us turn up at the airport and we all get in a plane, and whatever happens for the next week, we turn off the phones and the cameras. Nobody knows. We'd have a great old time, and it would only happen in our memories from then on. There'd be no proof of it, but that would be some trip. That would be some trip. Johnny says he had the Black Barrel Cask Strength this weekend. Got to love his brother-in-law. Great stuff. Jeff says, got off the plane at 6 a.m. and went straight to Hertz and drove to Boan. Jeff, there's many a trip I've done like that. You get in 6 o'clock in the morning into the rental car, and I'd often land at Dublin, and then I'd drive 4 hours to Cork, or 3 hours to Cork, or across 2.5 hours, 3 hours to Limerick or to Galway, and you'd do it. And then you could sleep on your way home. You could sleep on your way home. Oh, little insider information here. Single grain for Pennsylvania from Clonakilty at 57% coming in a week. Getting your insider information here. Giving Patrick the channels to get the word out. Good stuff. Looking forward to that. Andrew says we need to wear tags in case we get separated. When we land in Ireland, I'll hand you all the name of a priest and his phone number, a policeman and a lawyer. You'll have the names and phone numbers of all of those. So if you get into trouble, you know who to call, and you can make your own way back to America. I'm absolving myself of responsibility for you once you get to Ireland. I'll give you a little guide of where we expect to be approximately on what day. And if you're not there, I won't be wasting any sleep over it. You'll all get your turtlenecks. That's it. Maureen says turtlenecks for everyone. That's it. All right. So look, we did it again. We wrapped up another Friday night. I have some really exciting things coming over the next few Fridays. Mark your calendars. Let's go really far ahead. August 21st. We are going to do a big takeover of the live stream here of the lock-in with Kilbeggan Distillery. Many of you will be familiar with Kilbeggan. Kilbeggan is celebrating 10 years reopening, 10 years of their reopening. We're going to do a big night of Kilbeggan celebrations. We're going to open 3 different Kilbeggan expressions. We're going to bring on a number of people from Kilbeggan. We're going to have a good old time. That's August 21st. Let me see what else is happening. August 7th, mark your calendars. Louise McGuan from JJ Corrie is going to come on and talk about her lock-in bottling. And where better to talk about the lock-in bottling than on the lock-in. I think that should become the official bottling of the lock-in. She did something really interesting. She's going to talk to us about that. She's coming on August 7th. Next week, I'm going to release the details of that next week. We've got a couple of special Irish guests who are going to come on, and we're going to have a bit of crack with them. And I am working with a number of other Irish whiskey brands to do some fun experiences over the next coming weeks, whether that's actual virtual walkthroughs of the distillery, quizzes, events. The goal is that Friday night becomes a bit of crack, and it becomes a channel for brands to do fun things with us all, so that we can sip whiskey, have the crack, and start our weekend off in style. That's what's going to happen. Thanks, Jeff, for tuning in. And Jeff, your sip box is on the way to you, my friend. Thank you for your order. For those of you who have ordered sip boxes, All but 2 of them are out, have been shipped. We are down to, we're waiting on our next, let me see if I've got an overlay here. There we go, the sip box, you see them behind me. Big, waiting for our 3rd shipment, would you believe, of Tua glasses, custom Tua glasses. These ones here, the Stories and Sips gold rimmed glasses, gold because you're worth it. They are landing with me Monday, the 3rd shipment. We're now into our 400. By the time this shipment lands, we'll have 400 custom Tua glasses will have made their way through Stories and Sips HQ, also known as my house. And so that's the next shipments of those will go out. I'll be putting a big push on those boxes over the coming weeks as well, because we got lots of them already prepared, just waiting for the glasses. You see them behind me. So thanks for those of you who've ordered. Fair play to you, Johnny. You try not to make any other plans on a Friday night. I believe it. I do the same. Good man yourself. Steve says another quiz night would be great. I'm working on quiz night number 2, Irish Whiskey quiz night number 2. We're going to do something there. Peter says, order your sip boxes, people. Irish whiskey tastes much better in the glasses. Fact. Maureen, yours went out last week. So I know Canada takes a bit of time to get through to you. It is not easy, but it's worth it. We'll get them through to you as well. Peter says, having a few Manhattans in tonight. Great stuff. Great stuff indeed. Dearman asks, who's driving the bus? Won't be me, that's for sure. I'll be the one up the front with my can of 2 stacks, leading the songs, the Owl Triangle, and It's a Long Way to Tipperary. Dearman also tried the Redbreast Listowel, and it didn't disappoint. Well, I could honestly take no credit for Redbreast Listowel tasting good, because I'd imagine if you poured it into a sweaty sock and drank it out of it, Dermot, it would taste just as good. And I love Redbreast Listowel. I've been won over to it. If you were to offer me the 12 or the Redbreast Listowel, I'll take the Listowel any day of the week. Love it, absolutely love it. Chris says his Bushmills taste great in the new glass. Good man, Chris. And poor Chris, didn't one of his glasses break on the way? Chris, your replacement glass went out on the way. I'm new to this glass shipping business. Apparently, sometimes when you ship glass, it breaks. I've discovered that 2 or 3 times over the last 100 shipments, unfortunately. And so we're working on an even better way of shipping the glasses. But yeah, your replacement glass, Chris, is on the way to you. Thanks for bearing with us on that. All right, so, oh yes, Peter says an Irish song Friday night will be a blast. Okay, stay tuned. Within the next 4 lock-ins, we're going to have an Irish singer coming on as part of one of the whiskey events we're doing, Whiskey Experience. We've got an Irish singer coming on. So that's happening. Honestly, is this the best value night out in town? It costs you not a dime, and all you got to do is pick something off your shelf and put in your glass. And that's the way it should be too, isn't it? Steve says his new bottle of Jameson 18-year-old was fantastic. Oh, excuse me, in his Stories and Sips to a glass. Good man, Steve, christening it with something amazing. So it sounds like, okay, Johnny's waiting on the song. All right, we have to do a song. We have to do a song. So put in the comments your requests for a song that I'll have to choose from, find the lyrics of, and sing for you. And while you do that, let me tell you a funny story about an Irish song about the end of the night. So it was, when I was growing up in Ireland, it was common, if you went out to a bar, or especially a nightclub, at the end of the night, the last song of the night was always the national anthem, the Irish national anthem in a nightclub. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd stand to attention, you'd put your hand in your heart, you'd sing the national anthem. And it was just a thing, we thought that was what happened everywhere in the world. Apparently it doesn't, but that was what happened. Anyway, a friend of mine, didn't she move out to Australia? And she fell in with the Irish community in Sydney. And she'd go to this Irish bar every night. And they used to play the national anthem in this Irish bar in Sydney. And then one night, they decided they were going to switch it up. And instead of playing the national anthem, they were going to play something equally patriotic for Ireland. And they were going to play that iconic moment in 1990 when Packy Bonner, the Irish goalkeeper, saved the penalty, the Romanian penalty, that got Ireland into the quarterfinals of the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup in 1990 in Italy. A moment that none of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s in Ireland will ever forget. But that became the last thing that was played at the end of the night. And she said she was there one night and they were watching this penalty shootout as they had every night for the past few weeks. And one fella who she'd seen there a few nights in a row, he was on the edge of his seat watching the penalty shootout. And when Packy Bonner scored, when he saved that last penalty, this fella jumped out of his seat, roaring, screaming. His glass shot his whiskey everywhere. And he was like, yes, we did it, we did it. And everyone was looking at him, wondering why he was so excited at this event that had happened 30 years ago, 25 years ago. And then one fella say to him, sure, didn't you see it here last night? Weren't you here when he saved the penalty last night? And without missing a beat, the fella turned to him and he said, I was here last night, but I didn't think he'd save the penalty again tonight. And the whole place burst out laughing. That is Irish humour. No matter where you go in the world, you'll find it. And we have to bottle that somehow, and sell it. That's what we have to do. All right, so I'm in California, says Dermot. Yes, I am. Old Town, Spancil Hill. Right, that's one request we've got. What else have we got here? Dirty Old Town. I don't have any requests to me now at all, to be fair. Dirty Old Town, Spancil Hill. Is that it? Is that all you've got for me? Spancil Hill. We need something Christy Moore, all right. Let me see. Pull up something here. There's one Christy Moore song that I've been singing nonstop. What is it? Now I've lost it. What is it? No, the other one. Not Right On. Oh, yes. What is it? Right. There's a great Mrs. Stories and Sips is Sail on Jimmy. Sail on Jimmy. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Christy Moore's song Sail on Jimmy. Oh, Diarmid pulling on my my patriotic heartstrings here with a song from Cork, The Banks of My Own Lovely Lee. Joxer, black is the colour. Maybe we'll save the banks of my own lovely Lee for a night when we'll get a duet going with somebody else from Cork. Seamus Parr's favourite song is Sail on Jimmy. Sail on Jimmy is a lovely song. Honestly, I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's a Christy Moore song. We put up the lyrics here. It's absolutely beautiful. You see, the problem now is if I press play on YouTube for you, Facebook can detect copyrighted songs and they shut us down. Oh yeah, beautiful song, Sail on Jimmy. I think that's what we might have to go for. Johnny Jump Up, another good one. Great suggestion there, Johnny Jump Up. No, never, no, never, no, never, no more. But that's all about cider. And although it does talk about Paddy, 10 years in the wood, Johnny Jump Up. But we'll go for, I think we'll go for Sail on Jimmy. Sail on Jimmy. Old Christy Moore song to play us out. If only we had Christy Moore here to play us out. Instead, you're stuck with Barry Chandler to play you out. You'll have to bear with me now. All right, here we go. It's called Sail on Jimmy, Christy Moore. I'll try not to butcher it. They laid out the body in that peaceful pagan home to pay their last respects. All the neighbours came along. In the wee hours of the morning, pagan words from a whiskey still falling from the bushes, sworn enemies are friends again. Someone spilt porter on the corpse in the middle of his song, and the stories kept on coming back from 1941. Sail on, Jimmy. Sail on, Jimmy boy. Sail on, Jimmy. From this Irish pagan ritual. Mad Mary from the crossroads, grab me arse for all to see. I'll tell your fortune, Scobie, if you come on home with me. In the name of God now, Mary, some respect there for the dead. You can't be grabbing arses at a pagan ritual. Sail on, Jimmy. Sail on, Jimmy boy. Sail on, Jimmy, from this Irish pagan ritual. Father Tim is telling Tommy how the Israelites came in, and Tommy's eating sandwiches that are piled up next to him. Someone started singing, revenge for Skibbereen. There's a French lad there translating for the next door neighbour's daughter, Jean-Louis, and lovely Angélie. Sail on, Jimmy. Sail on, Jimmy boy. Sail on, Jimmy, from this Irish pagan ritual. In the wee hours of the morning, we were howling at the moon, when the mystic wind took Jimmy way up to the mystic room. Up, 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 he's gone in peace to save us all. Gone with the mystic blessing from that peaceful pagan ritual. Sail on, Jimmy. Sail on, Jimmy boy. Sail on, Jimmy, from this Irish pagan ritual. You, come on, Jimmy. That's it. We sailed on. We sent Jimmy on his way up to the mystic moon where he should be. A lovely fitting end of the night for us. I butchered it, but there we go. Sail on, Jimmy boy. Cheers, Liam. Cheers, Larkin. A few Cask Strength whiskies in. I can't be responsible for the quality of the singing, but I'd be remiss of me to leave us without a song. So here's what you do next. You share this, you like it, tell your friends about our live stream. Let's gather a crew. We've got a great crowd here every Friday night. We're not going to end anytime soon. It's only going to get better and bigger. But one thing's for certain, we're always going to have the crack. We'll have a few songs, and maybe somebody will come on and sing with me one of these nights. That's it. Sinead, I'm out. At the end of the night for me, a few Cask Strength whiskies. I'm going to put my head down early in the night on the West Coast. But listen, thanks a million for joining in. Stay tuned this week for a new episode of Stories and Sips with Jack Ferris from Bushmills. Come back next Friday for another lock-in live stream. And please, please, please press share, comment, like, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your sworn enemies where they should turn up on a Friday night. It's a privilege being amongst you all every week. So, sláinte, folks. Thanks for tuning in again, and I will see you next Friday.